Today my topic is about identifying temporal relations in clinical notes. My mentors are Dr. Chunnan Xu and Son Dong. I'm a PhD student in computer science from University of Pittsburgh. Our ultimate goal of this project is to identify the clinical timeline for patients. It could help to visualize the clinical notes in a more structured way, and it might also help for data mining purposes, like search for similar clinical temporal patterns or predict disease risks. In the previous work in general domain, James has present temporal markup language in 2005, and not until recently, Son and Styler extended to clinical domain. Generally, in clinical domain, the temporal relations are defined as relation between two clinical events, or between the clinical events and temporal relation expressions, or the clinical events and the node creation time. For the types of temporal relations, it could be before, during, after, continuous, start point or end point, and etc. So usually these problems could be breaks into 4 subtasks. First is to tag clinical events, and the second is to tag temporal expressions. Third is to connect the clinical events and the temporal expressions. And finally, we'll resolve the clinical timeline. In this project, we started 2 datasets. The first is UT Health Heart Disease Risk Factor dataset, and second is from UCSD Raleigh Children's Hospital Kawasaki Disease dataset. So for the first heart disease set, the target clinical events could be the heart disease risk factors, for example, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, hypertension, obesity, or medications. And the target temporal relations could be the relation between clinical events and the node creation time, which could be before, during, or after. We'll follow these 4 steps. First, we tag the clinical events. Thanks for my mentors. Our group has already developed bioNLP tigers uses conditional random fields and a set of rules. In the next step, we tag temporal expressions. I utilized a tool developed by Lin 2013. It's called MyTime. It will recognize the time, date, duration, and frequency in the test. In the next step, I will normalize these temporal expressions with respect to the node creation time to before, during, and after. The third step will connect the relation between the clinical events and the temporal expressions. In this set, all the 3 types of temporal relations are not mutually exclusive. So I decided to build 3 classifiers, one for each type of relations. And I use a linear kernel SVM for this classifier. For the features, I choose to use part of speech, which could indicate the tense or the modularity in the sentence. I will also use the time-like sequence, like before, during, and after. And also, I will utilize the text structure, such as the clinical note section titles. Also, we'll use how the clinical events are expressed in the notes, like a quantitative evidence, or it could be a qualitative evidence, or some diagnosis of disease or disorders. Next, I will use this processing pipeline to generate the features I mentioned above. For the experiment, I split the whole data set into almost 50% training and 50% testing. And for the result, as the errors and the result of bioNLP taggings would include the event tagging errors and temporal relation errors. And we want to find out the errors solely due to the temporal relation errors. So I also show the results using the gold standard. Event taggings in this case, showing this table, the event taggings are perfect and the errors are solely due to the temporal relation classifier. So the temporal relation extractions could reach about 90% in F1 measures. Um, so we extend our study. The next data set is a Kawasaki data set. And in this data set, our target events are the symptoms of Kawasaki disease. I will mainly focus on the prolonged fever symptoms. In this case, we would like to find the fever and the duration of the fevers. So we define the temporal relations as the relation between fever and the temporal expressions. Again, we'll follow these 4 steps. First, we'll tag clinical events. I use mentions of fever as keywords of the fever, like fever, febrile, FUO, etc. And also we'll include some false positive like scarlet fever, hay fever. And then we'll also tag based on the temperature above a threshold. For example, in this sentence, we'll just tag the fever. In this sentence, we'll tag the high fevers and temp to 102. In this sentence, we'll exclude the scarlet fever. In the next step, we'll tag temporal expression. Again, we'll use a tool developed by Lin 2013. My time will tag day, time, day, duration, and frequency. For example, in this sentence, we'll tag November 26th. In this sentence, we'll tag 6 days. It's like the duration of the fever. And in this sentence, we'll tag Thursday night. In this sentence, we'll tag like at the time of the nation as the reference of the time. In the third step, we'll connect the temporal relations. Because currently we only have 8 nodes, and so we just start using a set of rules, like find the nearest temporal expressions within the sentence or in the adjacent sentence. We'll come up with more sophisticated strategies if we have more data. For example, in this sentence, we'll connect the fever and October 26th and mark it as a start point of the fever. In this sentence, we'll connect 4 days and high fevers and mark it as a duration of fever is 4 days. In this sentence, we'll connect fever and for 2 days. As this is a negation statement, so we'll mark it as end of the fever. Hopefully we could get this fever timeline, recover this fever timeline from the clinical notes and the temporal expressions they extracted. As far as we're concerned, the challenges in this project could be we have identified a lot of hypostatic statements, negation statements in the clinical notes, and also the mentions of fever and the temporal expressions could span multiple sentences. For example, in this sentence, this is a hypostatic statement that we cannot use this to recover our fever timeline. In this sentence, this is a negation statement, and we need to recognize it and get the end point of the fever. In this sentence, the mention of fever and the time is spanning 2 sentences, and we need to do some coreference resolution in order to get the reference time of the fever. To summarize, in this project, we identify temporal relations from free text clinical notes, and we apply it to heart disease risk factors and Kawasaki disease. In the future directions, the first thing we'll do is to enlarge our annotated data set for Kawasaki disease, and we'll deal with negations and hypostatic statements. Also, we'll deal with the final step. It's like resolve the timeline using the temporal relations. Finally, we'll thank all our team members for the annotators' contribution. We'll also thank Dr. Jim Burns, our mentors, our professors, and staff and interns in iDASH and DBMI, and we'll also thank NIH. Thank you all. Yeah, so currently our system only capture the like exact mention of the duration. We haven't reached that step to deal with explicit, say, like several weeks or several months. Because for fewer mentions, in the clinical notes, for example, um, the the notes will always say some exact time of the duration of fever because I think this might be a key symptom, so the physician would write some exact date for the disease.